All right, we're going to talk about lesson 16, where we first meet third declension nouns, and specifically those whose stems end in a stop, a liquid like L or R, lambda or rho, or a nasal like M or N, mu or nu. So I'm going to remind you what the stops are. This is an old slide from the Greek alphabet. And first we'll start with the labials. Okay, sounds that you make with your lips, voiced with your voice box buzzing. Blah, 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 blah. Same thing, but without the voicing. Pa, 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 pa. Aspirated with a puff of air. P. Some people pronounce it as a fricative. F. And with an S sound. Ps. The dentals produced with your tongue, tip of your tongue against the back of your teeth. Da da da. Ta ta ta. T. Or as a fricative th. And st. And finally, the velars or palatals, g g g, k k k, k, x. Okay, so those are all of the stops, the labials, dentals, and velars. And here are the endings that you're going to see in the third declension. Now we're going to talk about what the nominative singular and vocative singular look like as different kinds of third declension nouns turn up. But in general, the genitive is in os, the dative in I, the accusative in a, short alpha, nominative in s, genitive in own, just like the first and second declensions, dative in si with a new movable, if the next word begins with a vowel or diphthong, accusative in os, note that this alpha is short, unlike the long alpha in the accusative plural of first declension nouns, and vocative plural, just like the nominative plural. That's always true. Nouns of any declension, any gender, vocative plural looks like the nominative plural. So let's start by looking at a third declension noun whose stem ends in a velar, or as the book calls it, a palatal. Phulax, which means guard. Phulax, its stem, look at the genitive singular, is phulak, right? So there's our velar there, kappa. And you can see the endings that we just saw on the chart. Right? Notice when you add an S sound to the kappa, you end up with a xi, so phulaxin. Now, in general, let's look at the nominative and accusative singular. In general, stems that end with a stop are going to add an S sound in the nominative singular. So we have our phulax stem, we had an S sound and we get phulax. The vocative singular looks just like the nominative singular here. Okay, so stem ending in a velar or palatal, we're going to add that S sound in the nominative. Our vocative singular is going to look just like our nominative singular. And velar palatal plus s, this dative plural ending, gives us a xi and a xi. Okay? Now, here is a noun, aspis, whose stem ends in a dental. And that last syllable of the stem is accented. So let's see what happens. So we're going to add this S sound that we add in the nominative singular of third declension nouns whose stems end in a stop. So we're going to add an S sound, and that dental is going to drop out. So we end up with aspis. And then again, it's all regular. Aspidos, aspidi, aspida, aspides, aspidon. Again here, now the dental's dropping out. Aspicid, aspidas, aspides. We're going to look at the vocative singular. It's the pure stem, aspid, with that final dental dropped. So aspi is the vocative. Now here's one whose stem ends in a dental. This one happens to end in tau. but that final syllable isn't accented. So let's see what happens here. It works just like as this, okay, throughout. So that dental drops before the S in the nominative singular. In the vocative singular, we have the pure stem minus that final dental, so kare. The dental drops here in the dative plural. Where it's different with this unaccented stem is in the accusative singular. It ends in nu, karin. Okay, because this last syllable of the stem is not accented. Okay. Now let's look at a noun whose stem ends in a labial, klops, which means thief. So klops, its stem ends in a labial, so that's a stop. So we're adding that S sound, and the P sound plus the S sound give us a psi, so klops. Vocative singular looks like nominative singular. Okay. Again, the labial plus S give us a psi there. Other than that, it's just what you'd expect, except if you have a third declension noun with a monosyllabic stem, with just one syllable, then that noun is going to get accented on the ultima in the genitive and dative, singular and plural, and that accent will be a circumflex in the genitive plural. Okay? Now, so much for third declension, masculines and feminines whose stems end in stops. Now we're going to look at ones that end in a liquid or a nasal. We'll start with this one, and the rules are good for ones that end in liquid or nasals, but we're going to start with one that ends in a liquid. Okay, so hretor, retor. Its stem is hretor. Okay, and this one is an unaccented final syllable of the stem, right? So the vocative is the pure stem. The nominative singular has that final syllable lengthened, but the vocative is the pure stem. Other than that, it works absolutely like you'd expect. Notice though, if you have a stem that ends in a liquid or nasal, we're not adding that S sound. We're just lengthening that stem if we can. Okay? Now here's one whose stem ends in a liquid or nasal. This one happens to end in a nasal where it is accented. Okay, so here the only difference is that the vocative singular looks exactly like the nominative singular. Okay, notice that that nasal drops out before the sigma. Okay, the liquid didn't, but the nasal does. Now let's look at this one. Its stem, leon, which means leon means lion. Its stem ends in a nutau. Okay, so in the nominative singular, we've lost that final tau. We've lengthened the omicron to be an omega, so leon. But the stem is unaccented, so the vocative singular is the pure stem with any final dental dropped. And then the real complication here is this dative plural. Okay, it should be leonsen. Okay, but this part drops out and we get compensatory lengthening. So we're making up for the stuff that dropped out by lengthening, and that is how we end up with this oo there. So lausen. Be careful of this because this ending looks like some kind of third person plural verb ending, but it's not. Okay, this is the dative plural of leon. Now let's think about neuters. In general, Okay, this is true of neuters. The nominative singular looks like the accusative singular, looks like the vocative singular. That's just the rule. And the nominative plural looks like the accusative plural, looks like the vocative plural. And always for neuter nouns, those plurals are in a short alpha. Okay, other than that, these are the same endings we've just been looking at for the masculines and feminines. Now, third declension neuters, most of them are going to work like this. They're going to have a stem that ends in a dental. Okay, and the nominative and accusative and vocative singular are that pure stem with the final dental dropped. Okay, and also look at the dative plural. Again, that dental is going to drop out before the sigma there. Other than that, it works exactly as you'd expect. It's just the stem plus the endings. Okay, stem plus endings. And that's it. There's a logic to it. It's a lot, but there's a logic to it. And so I encourage you to look at the charts in the book, read the notes in the book, and just kind of work it out for yourself. The subtle differences between the different kinds, different members of this family of verbs.